How's it going, everyone? My name's Matt, and welcome to my first ever deck tech. Today I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite decks that I've been playing for over 4 years now, Norin the Wary. Norin is a 1-mana 2/1 human warrior, and whenever anyone plays a spell or a creature attacks, remove Norin the Wary from the game and return him to play under its owner's control at the end step. So basically, Norin just does absolutely nothing. Whenever anyone plays a spell, he flickers out. On the end step, he comes back. He lets people know, hey, I'm not going to take this game too seriously. I'm not a big threat, but secretly, he's the best card in the deck. All right, start off the mana base. We got 28 basic mountains. Want to keep the basic count high because we have a lot of cards that care about the number of basics we have. So first off, we have Strip Mine, really good land. Wasteland, just another version of Strip Mine. Scavenging Grounds can exile all cards from people's graveyards. It's good graveyard hate. Maze of Ith keeps you safe. Spine Rock Knoll is the red land of the Hideaway cycle. If an opponent was dealt 7 or more damage, you can pay 1 red and cast a card under it for free. Comes really handy in the late game. Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, because we're running 28 basic mountains. Buried Ruin can get us back artifacts later in the game. Care Keep can put out some chump blockers. Rogue's Passage can make our creatures unblockable later in the game. And Sanctum of Ugin can tutor us up some Eldrazi, because we have a few of those. On to the creatures. Hangerback Walker. This card's actually pretty replaceable. It's probably the first card I'd look to cut if you're looking to make your own version of the deck. It's just there to get some blockers on the ground and deter people from attacking. Phyrexian Revoker is really good at shutting down key combo pieces or commanders that can be really scary. Humble Defector is great card draw. One of the best commander cards printed in the last couple of years, in my opinion. Just Howling Mine on steroids makes games a lot of fun. Imperial Recruiter can tutor up a lot of our answer cards if we need to go get a Phyrexian Revoker or some other creatures. Treasure Nabber lets us ramp using our opponent's ramp spells while also not drawing too much hate because we're not destroying them. Silent Arbiter makes it so that no more than 1 creature can attack each turn and only 1 creature can block each turn. So this keeps you really safe of people that are trying to go wide and have a big board of creatures. This deck's looking to stall to the mid to late game, so stopping those all-out attacks is really important. Solemn is self-explanatory. We have Zealous Conscripts and Kiki-Jiki combo in the deck. They're both really good individually. And if you happen to get them both, they're just an instant win. Mindclaw Shaman is one of the most underrated cards in EDH. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand, and you can cast an instant or sorcery from it without paying its mana cost. In Commander, this is great. This could be an extra turn spell or any big instant or sorceries, but it really varies depending on your playgroup. Conduit of Ruin can tutor up our Eldrazi and make them cheaper to cast. Duplicant is good removal, gets around indestructible. Wormcoil Engine, just a really good card. Inferno Titan helps keep the board clear of little creatures and can also dish out a lot of damage. Hellkite Tyrant can destroy artifact-based strategies, completely take them out of the game with 1 swing, and it's also an alternate win condition. If you can steal 20 or more artifacts, you'll win the game. Greater Gargadon is a great sack outlet. Oftentimes you'd rather have it in suspend than on the battlefield, but later in the game it can come in as a 9/7 haste. And then we're running 3 Eldrazi Titans, Ulamog, Kozilek, and Emrakul. Just great finishers, looking to close the game out. So on to the artifacts. Springleaf Drum and Mox Amber are 2 of the cards that actually make Norin relevant in the deck and on the battlefield. Really good early ramp spells. Wayfarer's Bauble gets us a basic land, which is really good because in the event that all artifacts get destroyed, you still have your ramp. Soul Ring should be banned. Mana Vault to help us get out to explosive starts. Everflowing Chalice. Mind Stone. Worn Power Stone. Hedron Archive. Thran Dynamo. And Gilded Lotus. All just really good ramp spells. We're trying to get to a lot of mana really fast. And then we're running Extra Panel Lens, Gauntlet of Power, and Cage Sun to double all of our basic mountains. Alright, so onto the artifacts. For card draw and card advantage, we run Sensei's Divining Top to help us filter our draws. Skull Clamp, which is super good if we ever need, in a pinch, we can just sack Norin, which we try to avoid, but it's there if we need it. Howling Mind just makes games better. It draws other people cards, but we're okay with that. We try to get the game to a crazy state. Anvil of Borgarden is kind of like Howling Mind, helps us draw more cards. Font of Mythos is the ultimate Howling Mind, drawing 3 cards a turn for everyone at the table. Mind's Eye is colorless card draw, lets us draw when our opponents draw. Works really well with Howling Mind and Font of Mythos. If we have access to a lot of mana, we can refill our hand. We're running creatures, so naturally we're playing Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves. Teferi's Puzzle Box. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player puts the cards from his or her hand on the bottom of his or her library and then draws that many cards. So this forces people to wheel their hands away. And this is really good because wheel effects can act like a disruption. If it's mid-game and people are sculpting their hands, if you know someone just tutored and someone says they're about to go off, you can play this and it kind of messes with people. And it doesn't really bother us because we just care about how many cards we have, not which ones specifically. We're not really trying to assemble any specific combos. So this just makes some really interesting games. Mimic Vat lets us take advantage of our opponent's creatures. Helm of Possession is another one of the cards that makes Norin relevant. It's a 4-mana artifact. It has 2 tap, sacrifice a creature, gain control of target creature for as long as Helm of Possession remains tapped. And we can choose not to untap it. So you can sack Norin to this, you can sack some of our smaller creatures to this, and you can hold this up at instant speed and gain control of your opponent's creatures. Genesis Chamber is one of the most powerful cards in the deck. Whenever a non-token creature comes into play, if Genesis Chamber is untapped, that creature's controller gets a 1/1 mirror artifact creature token into play. So every time Norin comes back into play, create a 1/1 mirror. Knowledge Pool. Knowledge Pool adds a little bit of chaos to the game. I'll let you read the text, but a key strategy for playing this card is to never tap out with it. If you're going to play Knowledge Pool, always make sure you're holding up a spell so that you're the first one to get cards out of the pool. Because oftentimes what happens is there'll be some Eldrazi in there, there'll be good cards, and you want to pull them out right away. And after a while, there's kind of just bad cards left in there. So you always want to make sure you can be the first one to pull things out of the pool. On to the enchantments, we're running Fervor to give all our creatures haste. Possibility Storm adds an element of chaos to the deck, but since we're caring about just the quantity of cards we're casting, we're okay with it being this crazy. We're not trying to cast specific cards, we just want as many cards as we can get. So this creates a kind of chaotic state, but this deck functions really well under that. It doesn't really stop us at all. We could play a 3-mana creature and hit an Eldrazi for free off the top of our deck. Or we could cast an Eldrazi and end up in a 3-mana creature, but we still get the cast trigger off the Eldrazi. So this is a really good card. Confusion the ranks combos extremely well with Norin. So whenever an artifact, creature, or enchantment comes into play, its controller chooses target permanent another player controls that shares a card type with it, exchange control of those permanents. So every time Norin comes back into play, he enters under your control. So you can swap him with a creature. And someone plays a spell or a creature attacks, Norin exiles, he comes back under your control again. So with this card, you'll slowly gain control of all the creatures on the board. And it doesn't matter who controls confusion in the ranks, this effect is really troublesome. So this allows you to just take over the game. Warstorm Surge. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. This is obviously really good with Norin. If we have our cards like Cage Sun or Gauntlet of Power in play, remember that Norin is a 3/2. That becomes relevant when this card's in play. So this is capable of closing out the game or just keeping creatures in check and slowly shooting down the board. We have 2 instants. They are Chaos Warp and Warping Whale. We have a couple lands that produce colorless, and a lot of our ramp is colorless so that we can cast Warping Whale. The most relevant mode is to counter target sorcery. If we need to, we can exile a creature with power 1 or less. There are some really good commanders like Zur the Enchanter that this can deal with. Or if we're lining up a turn where we need that 1 extra mana, we can make a Scion on end step to ramp us next turn. Chaos Warp is just great removal. We're running both Wheel of Fortune and Reforge the Soul. Like I said with Teferi's Puzzle Box, wheel effects can be disruptive, and we just want to refuel our hand and get as much card draw as we can. Vandal Blast destroys all artifacts. Blasphemous Act to destroy creatures. All is Dust. Most of our permanents are colorless, so this is normally a one-sided wipe. Insurrection. This card can just win the game. If our opponents have a big board state, we can just kill them with their own creatures. Warp World. Each player shuffles all permanents he or she owns in his or her library, then reveals that many cards from the top of his or her library, and then each player puts all artifacts, creatures, lands, and then enchantments onto the battlefield. So this is kind of resets the board and shuffles it, and everything's random. But for us, it's normally an advantageous shuffle because we're very permanent heavy. We have very few instants and sorceries, and we have some really powerful cards to hit, like our Eldrazi, maybe some haste effects. So if the board's getting out of hand, this is a nice reset button, and your turn continues after with your lands come in untapped. So you just have a really explosive turn. And sometimes you can just get to a spot where this just shuffles you into a couple Eldrazi and you win. And sometimes your opponents end up with 3 lands, sometimes you end up with 3 lands. But it just keeps the game interesting. But it usually turns out in our favor. And last but not least, we have 2 Planeswalkers in the deck. Chandra Flamecaller and Ugin Spirit Dragon. Chandra's really good at drawing us some cards. She can deal some damage with the 3/1s or also just clear away little creatures with her minus. Ugin is excellent at clearing the board, similar to All is Dust. Most of our cards are colorless, so it's really a one-sided wipe. Keeps us safe. And if the board's relatively clear when you cast him, his ultimate is usually finish the game out. And notably, since there's only 2 of them, if Possibility Storm is in play, you're guaranteed to hit the other, and that is the same case for instants with Warping Whale and Chaos Warp. If you have one, you know you're going to hit the other. Alright, and that is it. That is Norin the Wary. I hope you guys enjoy. Please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know any feedback. I'll be coming out with a list of budget alternatives. I know there's some pricey things in the deck. I kind of just built it up over the years. There's going to be a full deck list in the description below. Have a great day. Stay wary. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Where is Purphoros? Why isn't he in the list? It's normally the first card people add when they're making a Norin deck, because obviously Norin's going to be entering 4 times a turn cycle. That's 8 damage. But in my experience playing the deck, Purphoros just gets you killed. The game's going to come to an end. You're either going to win or everyone's going to team up because they don't have a way to get rid of Purphoros, so they just get rid of you. Warstorm Surge is better because it's targeted, it can deal with creatures, and Purphoros just makes you enemy number 1, and there's not enough other creatures in the deck that will end the game. Obviously, if you have Genesis Chamber in this card, the game's going to end, but I find that it just ends the game for the worst. I like for the game to go long, and it's just not where you want to be for this or not my style of play. If you want to, go ahead. It's obviously a great card. I'd probably cut Hangerback for it. But in general, it's just going to end the game. So that is why I'm not playing Perforos God of the Forge.